Hi, I'm Walt Disney Imagineer Asa Kalama. I'm one of the people who design and build all the cool Disney theme park attractions, like this one, the Wildly Wet Crush and Gusher, here at Disney's Typhoon Lagoon Water Park at Walt Disney World Resort. It's a watery, white-knuckle thrill slide. It seems to defy gravity itself. Those powerful water jets send you up and down and around through all kinds of twists, turns, dips, and drops. But I know what you're thinking. Crush and Gusher? Sure, it seems like a lot of fun, but Asa, isn't this supposed to be a show about science? Well, it is. As Imagineers, we use science to tell stories to take you to exciting places. And when you start thinking like an Imagineer, you're gonna find that science is really a lot like this. And this, and this, and this. So get ready, because we're about to plunge into the amazing world of imagination, inspiration, and science. As we dream it, do it. The science of Imagineering. Let's slide. Hello, and welcome to my workspace at Walt Disney Imagineering Research and Development, the place where imagination meets engineering. Now, I'm sure some of you might be wondering why I'm juggling 3 brightly colored balls. Well, for one, it's fun, and 2, brightly colored balls are a lot easier to juggle than honeydew melons. Clean up, aisle 9. And 3, it's the perfect way to introduce today's subject, the wonderful world of force, and Newton's 3 laws of motion. But what exactly is a force? A force is a push on an object or a pull on an object that results from its interaction with another object. For example, take gravity. It's a force we've all felt, right? Well, gravity is the force that results as the Earth, an object, interacts with all other objects, like you, me, giant, oversized words. But check this out. While the force of gravity pulls down on us, we feel another force, the force of the Earth's surface pushing up on our feet. That's because everything with mass has gravity, no matter how big or how small. The gravity from our body mass exerts a gravitational pull on the Earth the same way the Earth's gravity pulls on us. Even though we are billions and billions of times smaller than the Earth, we still pull with the exact same force that the Earth pulls on us. And that's something very cool about force. At any given moment, an object can have many, many different forces acting on it, all at the same time. The combined effect of all the forces acting on an object is called the net force. And when all the forces, even giant beavers, acting on an object are of equal strength and applied from opposing directions, the net force is said to be balanced, or 0. The object's speed and direction of movement, something we call velocity, won't change. But when forces acting on an object are unbalanced, the object will experience a push or pull of a certain strength. This unbalanced net force is what causes the object to move faster or change its direction. That change in velocity is called acceleration. Did you catch that? Acceleration doesn't just mean going faster. Changing direction is also acceleration, because you need a push or pull to move an object in a new direction, just like you need a push or pull to speed that object up. It was Sir Isaac Newton, a 17th century English scientist, who put forth a number of ideas to help the world understand the real relationship between the motion of objects and the forces acting on them. Ow! Newton's 3 laws of motion lie at the very heart of every Disney attraction we've ever designed. If there's movement, there's Newton. How do we Imagineers use them in our theme parks? How don't we use them? Come on, let me show you what I mean. And I think you're gonna have a ball. Yes, you really can have a ball here at Disneyland's Tomorrowland. This massive granite Kugel ball weighs a super heavy 14 tons. That's like 4 cars, or about 280 of your closest friends. Yet, the average person can move it. How, you may ask? All with a little help from our friend Newton.
Sure, Asa. What can I do for you?
No, not you, Newton. This is my new Imagineering intern. His name is also Newton. Thanks, but I was actually talking about Sir Isaac Newton.
Oh, yeah, this happens all the time. I'll be around if you need me.
Right now, as you can see, the Kugel ball is at rest. It's not moving. It has no velocity at all. All forces are balanced. Newton's first law of motion. An object at rest will stay at rest unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. This giant ball can be moved by an unbalanced force, human guest-powered force, and that's what makes it so much fun. Ah, but how much force does it take to start accelerating a 14-ton round ball of granite? That's the kind of question that Newton's second law of motion can help us figure out. Newton's second law of motion. Force equals mass times acceleration. Mass is how much matter or stuff there is in an object. And we already know that acceleration is a change in an object's velocity. It may sound like a tricky formula, but you've actually been using it all along without even realizing it. And that's because Newton's second law applies anytime you try to accelerate anything. Like when you try to get that stuck ketchup out of the bottle. You calculate how much force is needed to accelerate the mass, the ketchup, out of the bottle.
Asa, come on!
Even juggling makes you think about how much force is needed to accelerate the mass of each ball. The formula, force equals mass times acceleration, also tells us that the more mass an object has, the more force it will take to accelerate. So by changing to different balls with more mass, like bowling balls, you recalculate how much more force you'll need to get them in the air and keep them in the air.
Ooh, maybe I should have practiced a few times.
Newton's second law helped us to figure out how to design the Kugel ball and its base so that one person alone could make it move.
I can't do it.
Ah, but there's another force we need to take into consideration when trying to move an object, and that is the movement-stopping force of friction. Friction is a force that opposes the motion of an object sliding over another object. When you ride your bicycle, there's friction between the tires and the street. When you coast, it's the force of friction that slows you to a stop. I'm okay. When you push a book across a table, it's the friction that stops the book. Even when you walk and stop, there's friction between your feet and the ground. As you can see, when you walk on something slippery, like ice, there's not a lot of friction between the ice and my shoes. So we've got a 14-ton ball, which remember is like the weight of 4 cars, and it's at rest on its base. We know an object at rest will stay at rest, so how can I apply enough force to move the Kugel ball? One way, reduce the friction by applying a thin layer of water from below to lift the ball ever so slightly from its base. By reducing the friction, we can reduce the amount of human force needed to accelerate our giant Kugel ball. And so, it moves. And that's where the second part of Newton's first law of motion comes into play. The second part of Newton's first law of motion. An object in motion will stay in motion with the same speed and in the same direction unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. The Kugel ball will continue to move until another unbalanced force makes it stop. If Newton stops pushing, the force of friction is the unbalanced force that'll eventually make it stop. And of course, Newton can also provide the unbalanced force with his hands to make it stop. Or he can just keep pushing it for fun. There's something very interesting going on here with Newton's third law of motion. Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Like with this inflated balloon. When I let go, the air will come whooshing out. That's the action. As that happens, the balloon will fly forward. That's the reaction. For every action, there's always an equal and opposite reaction. That makes sense. Here at the Kugelball, it means that as hands apply a force to the ball actually pushes back on the hands with equal force, but in the opposite direction. But that's just on the surface. What's going on beneath the surface leads us to an odd but true Newton nugget. Get this. As the ball turns on its base, which is attached to the ground, there is an equal force being applied in the opposite direction to planet Earth. Yes, it's true. But since Earth's mass is billions and billions times greater than the Kugelball's mass, the Earth's motion is imperceptible compared to that of the Kugelball's. But if the Kugelball's mass were to suddenly increase to equal the Earth's mass, well, let's just say it would put a whole new spin on things. Don't worry, you're okay. You can keep on spinning without ending the world. The important thing to understand about Newton's laws is that objects really like to keep on doing what they're doing. If an object is at rest, it will stay at rest until some force comes along to change that. And once an object is moving, it does not need a force to keep it moving. It needs a force to make it stop moving. So from supersized spinning spheres to silvery sleek and spinning spaceships. Wow, say that 10 times fast. The Golden Zephyr here at Disney's California Adventure is a nostalgic orbiting rocket ride. And yes, Newton is at work here too.
I sure am. A good intern's always ready to jump right in.
Thanks, but I was talking about Newton's 3 laws of motion.
Oh, no problem. I'll be around if you need me.
This is Imagineer Laney Smoot. Laney, what's going on here in terms of Newton's 3 laws?
Well, as with all our attractions where guests are moving in a vehicle, we use Newton's 3 laws to create the most exciting ride experience possible. Here on Golden Zephyr, we're able to do that thanks to the second part of Newton's first law. An object in motion will stay in motion with the same speed and in the same direction unless acted upon by an unbalanced force.
So where's the unbalanced force?
Ah, that's something you really have to feel. Right now, we're spinning around and around the tower at the end of long cables. As we accelerate, you start to feel that cool push feeling, as if you're being squeezed into the back of your seat. That thrill feeling you get is because both the rocket and your body have inertia.
Inertia is an object's resistance to a change in motion. In other words, objects want to keep on doing what they're doing, which is Newton's first law. So, you're saying that the rocket vehicles don't want to go around and around?
Exactly. Sure, they're going around and around, but Newton's first law says that the rockets want to move in a straight line, and that they'd continue to move in that direction, but the cables provide the unbalanced force that pulls the vehicles inward. The rockets resist changing direction because of their inertia, but your body also has inertia, and it wants to continue moving in a straight line.
Wherever I release the string, the rocket flies off in a straight line.
As the rocket is pulled around and around, your body fights that change in direction, and the result is that cool, pushy feeling. The greater the acceleration, the more inertia and push, the greater the thrill.
Now, when it comes to thrill, we always want to make sure there's just the right amount to create the maximum fun. How do we do that on the Golden Zephyr?
Newton's second law helped with that during the design process. We had to figure out how much force would be needed to accelerate all 6 rockets whose mass could have been anywhere from 0 to 12 guests in each. We also had to keep friction in mind. In this case, a lot of friction comes from the air pushing against the rockets as they fly. Knowing exactly how much force we needed to accelerate the rockets to a thrilling and enjoyable velocity allowed us to choose how powerful a motor to use.
And the result is a fun and fast rocket ride, all thanks to our friend Newton.
You're welcome.
Force is everywhere. Newton's ideas definitely hold water, even when you're paddling through the water at Disney's Fort Wilderness. And from these little paddles, to much bigger paddles, like the giant ones rotating here on the Magic Kingdom's Liberty Bell. Paddles moving through water are a great way to see Newton's third law in action. As my paddle pushes the water backwards, as you can see, the water pushes back with an equal force in the opposite forward direction. Action, reaction. The Liberty Bell's paddle wheel is like 100 people paddling very rapidly, but it's the same action-reaction force that's making the boat move forward. The canoe has a lighter mass and much less inertia, so it needs much less force to make it change its speed and direction. But the Liberty Bell, with its greater mass and greater inertia, needs much more force to make it change speed and direction. Both boats must overcome the force of friction as the hulls rub against the water. When each boat reaches a constant cruising speed and there's no acceleration, the force moving the boat forward actually balances with the force of friction. But when the paddling on each boat stops, friction becomes the unbalanced force that slows down each boat, and eventually they'll stop. Nicely said, Riverboat Asa. You too, Canoe Asa.
No kidding, nice job, guys. Hey, what time do the interns get lunch?
So we've seen how Newton's third law can use action and reaction force to send things moving in one direction, like a paddle moving a boat forward, but action and reaction forces can also be used to bounce objects in all different directions. That's really what air hockey is all about. As the paddle interacts with a puck, there's an action-reaction force that sends the puck, with its lighter mass and inertia, zipping across the table. A cushion of air helps reduce the friction. Nice game. But imagine how fun it would be if we could take that same action-reaction interaction and turn it into an awesome attraction. Here at Disney Quest in downtown Disney West Side, that's exactly what we did. Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blaster vehicles are the bumper cars of the future. Not only do they allow you to bump and bounce off each other, they also let you fire balls from onboard cannons at each other's targets. This is Imagineer Katie Bassett. Bumping and bouncing really is a perfect example of Newton's third law, isn't it?
It is. The goal of Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blasters is to use Newton's third law to let guests experience for themselves the fun force of action-reaction. Action, you bump a vehicle. Reaction, the other vehicle bounces away. The faster you move, the more momentum you have.
Momentum is mass in motion. Since all objects have mass, yes, even nervous elephants on skis, all objects have momentum when they're moving. The more mass you have in motion, the greater the momentum. Likewise, the faster you go, the more momentum you have. And the more momentum something has, the more force or time it'll take to bring it to a stop. And if something moving crashes into something that's not moving, the momentum is transferred. So in terms of momentum, the mass pretty much stays the same from vehicle to vehicle. But guests can control their velocity to change their vehicle's momentum, right?
Yes. Each vehicle has a floor pedal that guests can push. This accelerates their vehicle. So the faster they go, the more momentum they have, the bigger the bump. The slower they go, the less momentum they have, the smaller the bump.
The momentum exchange between vehicles during this action-reaction force is what puts the bump in bumper cars. And of course, when you are bumped, you change directions, which means you're also accelerating. Okay, so let's talk about these cannons. How do the cannons use force to fire the balls?
Newton's first law, the balls are at rest in the load chamber. Newton's second law, we apply an unbalanced force from a spinning wheel in the cannon, kind of like a baseball pitching machine, that grabs the ball and launches it at a target on another vehicle.
So when designing the cannons, we were able to use the formula force equals mass times acceleration to calculate how much force we needed to accelerate the ball.
We had to. If we didn't use this formula, there might be too little force, and the ball might just plop out of the cannon. If we put too much force on the ball, it might fly up and land where the air hockey tables are. Just the right force, and the careful aim of our guests, will land the ball on another vehicle's target and send it spinning out of control.
Whoa! Whoa! You mean like this? Who keeps hitting us?
Hello, Asa.
Hello, Newton. California Screamin' at Disney's California Adventure is a totally awesome coaster. With a track that's over a mile long, it takes you on some of the wildest twists and turns you'll ever experience. And I haven't even mentioned the incredible launch. Or the amazing loop-de-loop. Check it out, California Screamin'. This is Imagineer Sharita Carter. So Newton's 3 laws are all over California Screamin', aren't they?
Absolutely. Roller coasters really are about using the force of gravity and momentum to send a train speeding along a winding track. On California Screamin', we make the track do all kinds of wild things to create the fun forces and thrill that our guests love.
Let's start at the beginning with the launch.
First, we're at rest on the track. All forces are balanced. Then, we use a magnetic launch system, which provides a very strong, unbalanced force to accelerate you down the track to a speed of about 50 miles per hour.
Here we go!
Newton's second law, force equals mass times acceleration, tells us how strong that magnetic launch force needs to be to get the vehicle moving fast enough to make it over the hill. We call that the fun speed.
And as you experience the incredible force from that super fast launch, you feel yourself being pushed back into your seat, which, as Newton's third law tells us, is the reaction caused by the action of the car in the seat accelerating. And at the top of the first hill, the force of gravity takes over.
Right. Gravity and momentum are really what keeps the car moving through the twists, turns, climbs, and falls. But the thrill is not so much coming from the speed. It's coming from the change in direction forced upon you by the shape of the track, while your inertia wants to keep you going in a straight line.
Why do we get that floaty feeling?
The floaty feeling is when your body wants to continue moving upwards.
Here comes the
Feel that floaty feeling! Then the track and car start to pull down away from you, like when you're quickly going over the top of a hill.
What happens at the bottom? Ah!
The heavy feeling in your stomach is when your body wants to continue down, but the track and car moves up, like at the bottom of a hill.
Whoa! And we're heavy, and we're light! And just when you think it can't get any better, there's a 360-degree loop. How much force do you need to get through a loop?
A coaster loop requires a lot of force because you're going all the way up and all the way around. Newton's second law, force equals mass times acceleration, tells us exactly how fast we need to accelerate the car.
We're coming up on the loop-de-loop!
Here it comes! The thrill comes as you enter the loop with all that inertia. You want to continue in a straight line, but the track loops you around. You feel that force as if the floor is pushing up on you.
And at the very top of the loop, there's a sweet spot, right?
Yes. For just an instant, at the very top of the loop, you no longer feel the floor beneath you. So you get that free fall sensation.
That's amazing! And at the very end, we use Newton's second law one more time.
Although the friction between the wheels and the car has been slowing the vehicle down the entire ride, the car is still moving. So we calculate how much force needs to be applied by the brakes to bring the car to a complete stop.
Where once again, all forces are balanced.
You want to ride again?
Sure, you don't have to force me. So what did we learn about force and Newton's 3 laws of motion today? Well, we learned that objects like to keep on doing what they're doing. That's really the basics of inertia. And Newton's first law, which says, an object at rest will stay at rest, and an object in motion will stay in motion, with the same speed and in the same direction, unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. When trying to make something accelerate, that is, change its velocity, we can use Newton's second law, force equals mass times acceleration, to figure out how much force is needed. And from boats to hockey pucks to bumper cars, Newton's third law shows us that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and that all moving objects, because they have mass, have momentum. We also saw that friction is a force that opposes the motion of an object rubbing against another object. But there is one more attraction I want to show you today. It's another roller coaster of sorts, but get this, you're the vehicle.
Crush and Gusher here at Disney's Typhoon Lagoon Water Park at Walt Disney World Resort gives you the chance to choose from 3 different water slides. You can ride on 1, 2, or 3-person rafts. It's a lot of fun and full of surprises.
Newton, what are you doing?
Surprise! As your intern, I thought I'd step in and help while you're getting changed. You know, work a little of the old intern magic. I'll be over there if you need me.
Well, the other Newton is at work here too. Water slides are a lot like roller coasters, but there's one big difference. On water slides, you start out high at the top of the hill and let the force of gravity pull you the rest of the way down. And instead of wheels moving on a track to reduce friction, water slides use a cushion of water to reduce friction, so you'll slide easier and faster. And here on Crush and Gusher, we're using Newton's second law to take the traditional water slide a few steps further. Not only do we have over 400 feet of unbelievable hairpin turns, dips, and drops, we're actually using powerful jets of water to provide enough force to propel you back up and over additional hills. You actually get that up and down roller coaster sensation. We use Newton's second law, force equals mass times acceleration, to calculate exactly how much force each water jet needs to accelerate your mass and the mass of different sized guests around and around and up and down. Newton's laws of motion allow us to provide our guests with the combined thrills of an amazing coaster and fun water slide as your body follows the path of the gushing water flume, like this. Now that's science at work. Even at the very end, Newton's second law is at work as we calculate how long and how deep the pool needs to be to provide enough frictional force to bring you to a comfortable and fun splashdown stop. That's one down. 2 more slides to try. Feel the force. Check it out, water balloons. I was inspired. I hope you'll remember that everything starts with an idea. If you follow through with your ideas, science can be the means to turn them into reality. Oh, and don't forget to always consider our friend Newton.
Did somebody say Newton?
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, you should see what I can do with bowling balls.
As we say at Imagineering, dream it, do it.